Hi, Pashi.
Hi, Suvi.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
A lot has happened
Yeah.
since we've last said hello to each other on our podcast.
Yeah, tons.
We both had birthdays.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Thank you. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Did you have a good birthday?
Great birthday.
You went skiing.
Yeah. I went to Mammoth. I took myself to Mammoth. Mackenzie was away over the weekend, and my birthday is Monday, January 8th. And she was like, well, I'm off that day if you want to, find a movie to see or pick a restaurant. And I was like, if you don't mind, how about I go up to Mammoth before you get home from your weekend away, and I will be skiing alone. So
The dream.
a dream. I mean, I miss her, and I'm very excited to see her when I get home. But to ski solo, it's pretty great.
Now, obviously, the ski part, I am not drawn to. But man, oh man, does that solo sound pretty good.
Something else I noticed with my birthday, if I can rail on something.
Yeah, rail away. It's your podcast.
So when people wish you happy birthday, it's super nice. People your producer, Mike Shoemaker, like my lawyer reaches out and says happy birthday. That's super nice. I get all these automated emails from my bank wishing me a happy birthday. My dentist emails me today is all about you. My chiropractor emailed me and texted me, but it's not my chiropractor. It's just a thing. And everyone that you give your birthday to, I don't know if they want me to be like, oh, that was so nice of them, because they did not put any thought into it. And I do not like that I even have to open those emails, especially when I'm skiing. And I'm like, oh, what's this email? It's like, oh, I don't have an appointment.
You know who did put some thought into that?
Who's that?
Me. I reached out to your bank, to your chiropractor, to your dentist. I did all this legwork. I talked to each of them. I don't even know them.
Yeah.
Individually said, hey, you don't know me. I'm Josh's brother. It's his birthday. I think he'd really appreciate. Well, that was a waste of time.
You were the first person I spoke to on my birthday because I was sleeping with a sound machine.
Yeah.
Or my phone was playing sort of a rainstorm through this Bose speaker that I have. That 7 a.m, it was call from Suvi Myers. Call from Suvi Myers. And we had a great talk.
I felt a little bad because I could tell you were knocking the cobwebs out, and I hated being a dude who called somebody on their birthday and woke them up when they were solo times. But you did want to get out and hit the slopes.
I did. And it was a super nice call, and thank you. And it was great.
My birthday is December 28th and didn't do much. It's a bad day. We've talked about it. It's just a bad day.
Yeah.
On the calendar.
Yeah.
But then, very nice, sort of a birthday-saving surprise party for me on January 6th.
Yeah.
Alexi said we're going to go have dinner with friends. Went over to a friend's house. Alexis could not believe how dumb I was. Walked into a house where there were two fully set long tables. No one was there. There were 1,000 cars in the driveway. And walked in, no one was there, and no alarm bells went off. In my head, I thought, why are we the first ones here? Which doesn't make any sense because we had to park so far away. So just a dumb guy.
Yeah.
And then walked in, everybody else surprised. And my friend Adam did a just incredible job. The theme was birthday drinking with Seth.
Yeah.
And there were cocktails inspired by my illustrious life. And the most fun thing was they printed out pictures of me from the very few films I've been in. And I had to guess the name of the movie, the name of the character, and the year it came out. And there was not a single one where I got all three right.
Wow.
Yeah. But it was lovely and was a very cool night.
A great way to surprise someone is, I feel like they were pretty well queued up to surprise you because you had a surprise party from your staff.
Yeah, at work. Yeah.
You had been away for your birthday with your family.
Mm-hmm.
And the surprise came 9 days after your birthday.
That's how you get them.
That's how you get them. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it is a little bit like April Foolsing someone on April 9th.
Right.
Am I a sucker or are you doing the holiday wrong?
Yeah.
Point being, they got me, and it was just a delightful night. And because we were doing a lot of drinks, a bunch of my friends, and these are friends I've met in my adult life, found out for the first time that I can put them back.
Oh, do they not watch Day Drinking?
I think they don't quite fully appreciate how real it is.
Yeah.
And so at some point, they had watched me imbibe a level they thought was unhealthy.
Mhm.
And I was still incredibly conversant.
Yeah.
Could have done a podcast. That's my sort of tolerance. I'm very proud of the fact that I've kept it.
Maybe we do a drinking podcast at some point.
Yeah,
If there's the right guest comes through. I don't want to glorify drinking.
I do.
Yeah, okay. But also we are our mother's children,
Yeah.
and yeah, we can put them back, I would say, without great effect.
Sometimes when I talk about and glorify mom's drinking, which I know you don't want to glorify that either, but sometimes I'll talk about how she has a really high tolerance, and people will sort of say in the YouTube comments, it's not as cool as you think that your mom can drink as much as she can. And what I want to write back is, okay, I'll tell her. Wet blankets.
I called mom and dad the other day after the Steelers game.
Yeah.
I was very excited. Or after the Steelers made the playoffs, the Titans had beaten the Jaguars to get the Steelers in. And I talked to mom. It was just mom. And I've said on the podcast that I like just talking to one of them at a time. And we probably talked for about 5 minutes. And then dad chimed in. And he was like, hey, I'm here too. I just wanted you to know I'm not saying anything because I know you like to talk to us separately. Which was a nice little burn, but also a recognition of a request I had made.
I think that the real message here is if there's anyone listening and there are things you've had trouble telling your parents over the years, do a podcast. Say it on the podcast. Let them hear it that way. Mom told me the story, and then she said when she was done talking to you, you offered to talk to dad, and he said he'd only talk to you if you called a second time. Is this accurate?
Yeah.
So you had to call back and ask for him.
Well, I had stopped for a beer on the slopes, and then I was like eager to get back out there. So then I forgot to call, and then I felt bad. So now I feel like I'm that's a demerit for me. And then the next day was my birthday proper, and I FaceTimed both of them. And at the end of the FaceTime, he did say, well, feel free to call me back anytime you want to talk to me.
He still feels as though he's owed a call.
Yeah.
We interviewed Joel back in 2023. It should be noted.
Yes, Joel McHale.
Joel McHale.
Yeah.
Who you are going to be delighted by. And a lot has happened. We do mention football in this, and a lot has happened since, including our Pittsburgh Steelers beating his Seattle Seahawks, which sort of hurt and cost them the playoffs and was very valuable to us. And I just want to say, while you're listening to this, know that Joel did send me a congratulations message after that game, just to speak to the level of gentleman he is. He's a very good man.
Class act.
And I hope you all enjoy our conversation. And we're very excited to have you back with us here in 2024. Before we get to Joel, we want to put out one more call for sibling stories. This is not tied to any... Oh, real quick, Josh.
Yeah.
I can't believe I almost forgot this. I texted you this, but I want our listeners to know because this is a story about a listener.
Oh, yeah, this is crazy.
One of the most wonderful things, and I think it happens to you, it happens to me, we love when people come up to us and say they listen to the podcast. Never feel like you have to hesitate.
I like it more when they say that they like it, not that they just listen to it, because they could be like, I listened.
Yeah, that's true.
But
you know what?
Meh.
All the advertisers care about is whether or not they listen.
They do. They like clicks. Advertisers just want them clicks.
Click, 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 click. Every time you click, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Anyway, so I agree. It's better when they say they like it. And a woman comes up to me at the trampoline park in Albuquerque. I was in New Mexico for the holidays. I went to the trampoline park in Albuquerque 3 days in a row, and it was incredible. Josh, I think the next time you see me on a trampoline, you're not going to believe how much better I am.
Well,
yeah. Because where would you put me on a 1 to 10 as far as my trampoline skills?
2 or 3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's going to be the same.
So maybe now it's a hard 3.
Anyway, a woman comes up to me and not only says, I like and listen to the podcast, she was someone who left us a message on our listener episode about the turkey that came into her backyard during Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and she had said she was like from a place, maybe the Villages?
Yeah.
I don't know if it was the Village.
somewhere.
That's that place in Florida.
Yeah,
but it might be called
somewhere in New
something
Mexico.
Yeah, and it was near Placitas.
And it was a real trip because the more she talked, the more I felt as though I had spoken to her before because I'd listened to her leave a message for us. So that really, as fan interactions go, what a trip to actually meet someone who had been a guest on our podcast without us ever having met them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Small world.
I think if you leave us a message with one of your sibling travel stories at speakpipe zoc.com/family-trips-pod. It probably increases the chances you'll run into me at a trampoline park or maybe a place with a climbing wall, zip line studio.
You can't get enough.
I can't get enough. So anyway, one last thing about the trampoline park. And again, not a sponsor.
Yet.
There's a climbing wall situation. And, they strap you in with harness and the kids are doing it. And then a parent, I thought it was just for kids, right?
Yeah.
And then one of the parents is doing it. Ash, who's not, I don't consider him fearless. So I was really proud of the fact that he was climbing all the way up this climbing wall. And then just from the top, you jump off and you just sort of slowly get lowered down. But you still got to jump,
Yeah.
into the void.
Yeah.
And Ash said, oh, you can do it with me. Climb up the wall next to me. And I got to tell you, I thought, great, I'm an excellent climber. But then you get to the top and I had some real doubts about everything.
Yeah. Well, my history of rappelling off of things.
You fell off a zip line in Mexico.
Yeah, like the platform. They told me just step off and we're going to sort of slowly lower you down. And I broke my leg and my back and my jaw.
And I want to stress, in the end, everything went quickly, but it was like a 14-year-old kid who put me into this harness.
Right.
And, so I'm thinking even if I hit the ground, I don't think I'm going to get the kind of money lawsuit-wise out of this kid that I need.
You think it's just him? You go to his insurance, the 14-year-olds?
Yeah, that's probably right. I probably would have got the trampoline park money.
Which you might own a trampoline park, which based on how often you go, you would love.
You know what the worst thing, there's a lot of terrible things about having kids, but you know what one of the worst things is?
What?
How much they like claw machines.
Yeah.
Arcade claw machines, yeah.
Yeah.
And there was one at the trampoline park that I thought was great because it guaranteed a win on the claw machine.
Yeah, when Ash told me he won something, I was flabbergasted because those are notoriously like scams, little rip-off machines.
Ash got a rubber duck, and then Axel did it, and Axel got one, and that's when I realized, wait, back to back, what the F is going on? And then I looked, and pretty clearly labeled on the claw machine, it was guaranteed winner every time.
Do you think that's like in the claw machine world, they put out those guarantee machines to get kids hooked? Is that
right. It's kind
the
of
old the first sample's free?
Probably. Or maybe the rest of the claw machine industry looks down on that as sort of the purists in the claw machine world are like, how dare you?
Yeah.
It's, what's the problem with modern kids today? They don't work hard. They think every claw machine's a winner.
No matter what you do, rubber ducky.
All right. We've gone a very far afield of our introduction of Joel McHale. So let's not take any more time. It's 2024. We're going to be a lot more to the point. Here's Joel McHale, but first, here's Jeff Tweedy.
Family trips with the Myers brothers. Family trips with the Myers brothers. Here we go.
Is it working?
Oh, there he is.
It's working.
Oh, there he is.
You have no idea how difficult these things are for me.
Well, here you are. You've done great.
Yeah, and I've had you as a guest during COVID, and you were wonderful then.
Well, but there wasn't microphones sent, and I wasn't locked out of my Gmail account because I entered the passcode wrong too many times.
How many times until they lock you out of Gmail, Joel?
Twice.
Twice.
That seems
Yeah.
punitive.
It's like the Catholic school of passcodes, and they don't. So I'm locked out for 48 hours. Second time it's happened. And then it says it sent a code to my Hotmail account, which I haven't used in 17 years.
But you still know that password?
I guessed. And
I used to have Hotmail, and my password was like a 5-letter word. And it was a very basic word. Yeah, it was amazing.
and that word was?
It was Bowie.
Oh.
Bowie.
Yeah.
Joel, we're so happy to have you on our new podcast, Talking Emails. And we do want to let you know it's not a popular podcast. Very few people, if any, will hear it.
Yeah, people talk about the popularity of Taylor Swift and how she can affect entire cities. And I think this is as entertaining.
I think it is too. We're very happy to have you. You are, and I have told you this to your face, you're one of my favorite talk show guests to have on my show.
Oh, God Bless you. Well, you know how excited I get to come on the show. And your brother and I did a pilot about in 2006.
Yeah, long time ago now.
What was the 2006 pilot? Which one was that one?
Giants of Radio, directed by Jason Weiner.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, Giants! I went to college with Jason Weiner. So did Josh.
Yes. And Ethan Sandler.
Oh my goodness!
And Catherine Hahn.
Was it a network sitcom?
I think it was Jason's idea, and he got money from CBS to do it. And I think it was like $100,000 total. And we shot it in an office building, and there was like one trailer. And I think it turned out really well. And then, of course, they said, no way.
Yeah, but it was fun. And yeah, Weiner's got a great eye, and he was able to do a lot with a little in terms of budget. I know like people are like $100,000. That's a ton of money. And it is, but not when you're making a TV show.
It's not a lot for a pilot. It is not a lot of
No,
money for a
or
pilot.
like a Joint Strike fighter jet. It's barely a couple of
Right.
screws.
It's
So.
not, you can barely, a bag of screws.
Do you feel like people, well, anybody in entertainment or in industries that know, that have to use a lot of money because they're like, look, we got it for $1 million, which is a lot of money because people are like, whoa.
Right. You guys just said it wasn't a lot of money. You made a pilot that nobody ever saw, and people are listening saying, so a house.
Right.
You basically spent a house worth of money to make a pilot that didn't.
Right. Not a house in Los Angeles anywhere nearby.
No, but a home somewhere.
Yeah.
We have listeners spread out all across this great nation where there's a lot of different price points for homes.
There really is. And that's why Rocket Loans is sponsoring this portion.
Oh, wait.
The Myers brother.
You brought your own sponsors?
We have sponsors that pay for space on this show, and now
He brought his own sponsors.
do you get paid separately? Do you have like a side hustle every
You
podcast
sent me
you
a
go on?
box full of sponsors that I had to hit.
We didn't send you a Rocket Mortgage box.
That's true. But you know what is great? Crumbles cupcakes.
Crumbles. We do love crumbles. Joel, I did not know that you were not born in America.
I was not born in America.
You were born in Rome, Italy.
Yes, divertissimo, signor.
But now you were not there very long.
I am here now. I'm there now.
Oh my goodness.
No.
Yeah, you have a real Roman background.
Thank you. Yes. No, I wasn't there. I was 3 when I left.
Okay.
Because, I became an exchange student at 3. No, my parents had 3 boys. And so my dad lived in he was the dean of students at Loyola Rome Center, which was out of Chicago, which, as you know, is right up the lake from you or down the lake from you.
Yep.
From Northwestern. And he saw the movie Roman Holiday and was like, that's where I'm going. And he figured out a way to get there. My mom's dad worked for the UN, and he was in charge of stimulating fish populations around the world. And so my mom was a student. My dad was the dean of students. Romance broke out, and they had 3 boys, and then they couldn't afford regular school there. So there was either go to public Italian schools or move back to America. And they were trying to decide whether they wanted to raise Italians or Americans, and they went American. So
And are
there
you
go.
the youngest of the 3 boys?
I am the middle.
The middle. So does your oldest, does he have the best memory of the time in Italy?
He was fluent in Italian, apparently, and then just stopped speaking it completely. Yes, so he definitely has the best memory. And I just pretend like I liberated the city in 1944. That my memory goes way back. And so, yeah, and I was baptized at the Vatican, and I'm not joking.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let me know.
When you go to an Italian restaurant, does your older brother say like, I'll order? Like, I'll handle
Yes.
this?
When we go into Olive Garden or Sparrow, he just...
Those are the 2.
And I was like, I don't
Those
feel like
are
you
the
should
2.
do that here. But yeah, he actually doesn't remember any Italian.
Wow.
Have you gone back there as a family?
Yes.
Okay.
We took my family a couple times. And way back in the 90s, I went alone for a month because my aunt and uncle still lived there. And I lost my passport, or it was stolen. And I had to go to the American embassy to apply for a new one. And they were very confused. They looked me up, and it, obviously said I was born in Rome. And then I'm this, I look like this, and I'm going, I lost my passport. Can you help me? And where do you buy gum around here? So they gave me a temporary passport because they're like, we're not sure what's going on. So here's a 30-day one so you can get out of here. It was very exciting.
How did your family decide on Seattle as their sort of port to raise their boys?
My mom was raised in Vancouver, British Columbia. My grandfather and my grandmother, they weren't born in Seattle, but they were both at the University of Washington. And that's where they met, which is where I went to as well. And my grandfather kind of gave my dad a list of like, here's some leads I got for you. And we moved there. My dad had never been to Seattle. And at that point, Seattle was not the cultural center, like dripping with money and culture. And it was a depressed sea town with Boeing and Weyerhaeuser. My dad got a job at Weyerhaeuser, which is a timber company. And he said, first day driving to the job, they had left swinging Rome, right? That was like the height of like Federico Fellini Rome. And they were in Seattle, which had, trees and serial killers. And my dad said, he told me, he goes, I said out loud in the car, I said to myself, the fun part of my life is over. And so, like, I grew up in this suburb called Mercer Island, which now it's like so swanky now. And people are like, ooh. And I was like, at the time, my parents paid like $80,000 for their home. So
It's less than a pilot.
Less than a pilot. So it really shows you the value of money. And like literally there was billboards in Seattle that said, with the last person in Seattle, please turn the lights off. And then it all changed. Then all of a sudden, Microsoft and Kurt Cobain and Starbucks. And
did it feel like when it changed, were you the sort of family that, it doesn't sound like you were the sort of family that said, oh, we miss the old Seattle. Was it an exciting time to go through the Seattle boom?
Oh, yeah. It was
great.
It was so, like all those bands and all that time, like all the musical festivals happened every year. And then I took it for granted. But you're like, well, everybody's hometown just gets better. And then your music, like, well, yeah, of course, everyone's listening to this music because it's really good. And then all of a sudden, I remember MTV talking about it. And I was like, wow, I guess we are cool. Then you start telling people you're from Seattle and they're like, oh, I hope to spend some time there. That was not the case at all for forever. And so now no one can afford to live there. And it's great, but it is changed. I mean, it just like everyone, I sound like such an old man, but how dramatic the change is pretty stark.
One of the more dramatic American city transformations in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
Did your dad then admit there was some fun left in his life?
Yeah. Then he just fell in love with it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And then there was time like they were going to move back to Chicago. And then my mom was like, you don't want to move back to Chicago. And I mean, like that was his home, and they love it. But the winters are rough. They talk about the winters, but no, they're not. They're fine. But no, they never left because the whole boat culture and all the water and all that and all the mountains. Yeah, he begrudgingly to this day admits how much he likes it.
In a weird way, he kind of got out just in time from Italy and hit the wave perfectly in Seattle.
Yeah, we spent some time in Athens, Georgia. Of course, and
yeah, I've been to Athens.
No, I'm
Georgia.
kidding. We did. I did. No, just because remember when Athens, Georgia, they had like REM and B-52s and a couple other bands came out, and now Portland, Maine is the place to be.
Is Portland, Maine the new place to be?
There's like Michelin star restaurants. It is exploding.
We grew up not far from Portland, Maine, and I had never been, and then recently, I was back east and with my fiance and her dad and stepmom, and we drove into Portland for a day. And man, it's great. It's a fabulous, fabulous town.
Yeah.
And I've been to Athens, Georgia, and I've been to Michael Stipe's house when Michael Stipe was not there. But I swam in his pool, and he had this like sort of silo next to the pool, which was like the changing room.
What happened at that trial? Yeah, for breaking into the Stipe home.
Yeah. Is it weird? Because you were pretty famous at that point.
There's a lot of dog action going on over at my house right now. I apologize.
You're changing the subject to how you got into Michael Stipe's home.
That's what he did on the stand when they kept asking him. The lawyer was saying, what were you doing? He's like, sorry, I feel like I hear a dog.
Yeah. You all hearing that dog? It's...
The transcripts from that trial, pretty much all my brother's answers are dog related. It's hard to answer. I didn't hear your full question because of the barking dog.
And then he just started bringing in other animals to up the end. You guys hear that bear?
I think there's a bear.
There's like a bear.
Oh, the dog must be barking at the bear. So you grow up, you have, you're in the middle. Your brothers are how much older, how much younger?
Wait, what happened to you at Michael Stipe's house? How did you get in?
My friend Christy Bush lives in Athens, Georgia, and is old friends with Michael Stipe. And I was there for Christy's ex-husband's 50th birthday party, and we were hanging out. And she was like, "Hey, do you guys want to go swimming at Michael's?" And we were like, "Yeah." And he wasn't there, and I met him years later, and I was like, "Hey, I've been to your house," and he's like, "I think I've seen pictures of that."
When he says pictures, do you think he means security camera footage?
We took a picture and sent it on a phone camera.
Yeah,
he's a very nice man.
He is a very nice man.
Very talented.
He was like, "It's really great to meet you, and I'm glad that you spent some time in my pool."
Such a good Stipe.
It's either the high voice Stipe or because Johnny Depp and Stipe do the same thing where they're talking voices like, "What? I can't hear. You're just mumbling everything." It's going to be great. We're excited. We sing hymns now. We don't sing pop music at all.
You can either do the impression of Stipe singing or what you just did. And I'm also very much in the category of what you just did.
You want to hear my Stipe singing? "Oh, where are you now, Pussy Willow?" That's my entire Stipe singing.
Guys, I hate to do this. I am going to go.
What?
I got to go deal with this. I got to deal with this dog thing. You might not hear it. It is relentless. And
Great.
there are dogs barking at my dogs.
Okay, great.
I'm going to be back.
Joel, my brother and I started this podcast, and Josh said, "Do you have any advice on what would be helpful to do during the podcast?" And I said, "You should get a new rescue dog.
Yeah.
One that is frightened all the time and reacting and impossible to quiet down."
And did you say, "Hey, and wherever the dog is, make sure the podcast is about 20 feet away from it"?
I said, ideally, you don't want the dog to get too far away from the podcast. And, it's a real older brother, younger brother thing, but he took my advice and I'm real proud of him.
His lighting game is really nice.
I know. He's way better lit than both you and I.
Yeah, he's got the two matching and then the teardrop and the flowers. It's really pretty.
But you can't light a dog to be quiet.
Let's talk about your brother's hair for a second.
I'm glad we're going to do this.
You are blessed with good looks and all that, but his hair, never mind, don't say a word.
Well, no, he'll like that we're talking about it. Well, no. We just watched my brother's butt pass through frame. So he does have excellent hair. And one of the nice things about doing a podcast with him is because it is an audio medium, I don't have to hear people tell me how great his hair is.
Right.
The listeners don't know.
Oh, this is not on camera. It's all audio.
Yeah, it's all audio. Did you think you were camera ready? That is shocking to me.
I'm in full. Do you think this just happens?
I was almost certain you showed up positive that this would not be on camera.
Wait. Are you saying that I look like shit and there's no way there's no way you would be lucky?
We'll clip this for the promo video for this episode. We'll use this.
Seth, I do like how in your show you have abandoned, when the show comes back, but you already did it. You abandoned Suits a long time ago.
I don't regret the choice.
It's really good. Was there pushback from the network?
This is more embarrassing than anything. I'm certain they haven't even noticed. I think when you're the 12:30 talk show on a network that has an 11:30 talk show, you have to do a lot of shit to get them to notice.
Yeah. No, when I was on The Soup, that happened a lot where we would say something and nothing would happen. And then there would be a complaint. And then they would be like, "Hey, did you guys say that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we said it 2 weeks ago."
Yep.
And they're like, all right, well, don't. It was great. Josh, we were talking about your hair.
Okay. All right.
On behalf of a person with a bunch of, fake hair, it's really hard.
Well, it looks great. Whatever you have going on is also great.
Transplants, baby. They're the best.
Good for you.
Thank you.
So, real quick, your brothers, you have one older, one younger. So how far apart are you all?
The older one is 26 months older. My younger one is 21 months younger. So my dad, they weren't wasting any time.
No.
My mom was barely healed, and my dad was hopping up.
That's a very Catholic spread.
Yes, and C-sections too, like Italian C-sections. So it was, I don't know how it all works, but after me, the Italian doctor told my mom that she was no longer able to have kids. So then when she got pregnant with my younger brother, she was like drinking and smoking and going out and having a great, their Italian life. And then she started noticing, she was like, oh, I am pregnant. And it's ironic because my little brother is the only one of us not to be like dyslexic and have like ADHD. He's like focused. He went to a good college. He's smart. He reads a lot. And I know you guys are big readers, but my older brother and I, we can only listen to books if we're kind of just running around a table to distract ourselves.
So you can't slow down even, right?
Yeah, you can see this. I need medication. Or like my wife hits me with a trank dart when I'm making coffee.
Were you close? Were the three of you close, despite this differences in one reader and two non-readers?
Yeah. And we were close in grades. So I got held back. So I was only one grade older than my little brother, which he made fun of me. And then we never flew anywhere as a family. We only took road trips. So we were forced to be with each other at all times with no seatbelts in a Dodge Aspen.
Describe a Dodge Aspen for those of us who don't remember.
Dodge Aspen is a compact wagon, which Lee Iacocca, when he took over Chrysler, was one of his babies. And it partially saved Chrysler because it had the slant six engine, which was an extremely reliable engine, and ours never broke down, and we put like 200,000 miles on it. When you look at it now, you're like, how did we ever fit in that thing? And it was a great car. It had wood paneling, and they're valuable. They're actually worth something now. So if you find one, Dodge Aspen wagon, everybody, look it up. It's great.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break and hear from some of our sponsors. We are supported by Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform for building your brand and growing your business online. Stand out with a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything, your products, content you create, and even your time.
Get started with one of our professional website templates with design for every category and use case. Then customize your look, update content, and add features to fit your unique needs.
It's easy to sell custom merch. Speaking of which, we made some family trip sweatshirts just for friends of the pod. We might start selling them to people who listen.
And maybe we're going to have to need a website.
Yeah. I feel like it'd be crazy in this day and age not to have a website to do that.
And to build a website, we might have to use good old Squarespace. Yeah, this is going to be good for us, Seth, because if we're looking to sell our products in an online store, whether we're selling physical, digital, or service products, Squarespace has the tools you need to start selling online.
One of our service products is you can order Josh to come to your home and write a song about one of your family members.
Yeah, it's a high-priced item.
But you do have to put them up for 3 nights. Go to Squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, head to squarespace.com/trips to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That's squarespace.com/trips to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Family Trips is supported by 8 Sleep. At this point, I'm guessing a lot of you have heard about 8 Sleep. It's a buzzworthy mattress cover called the Pod. Can be added to your existing mattress to automatically cool down or warm up each side of your bed and in turn improve your sleep quality dramatically. Poshy, did you even know you preferred a cold to a hot mattress?
I didn't, but there's a lot of nights where I'm like too hot or, Mackenzie will want a different temperature than I want. And what 8 Sleep does is it sort of will adapt to your body and it uses sensors. I don't understand this technology, but it can give you a better night's sleep. Like for me, I want it to be cooler at night than she does typically, and 8 Sleep will just do that. It'll make my side of the bed cooler and her side of the bed can be warmer.
Like, for example, I like it a little bit warmer than Alexi, and Alexi likes it when I sleep on the couch. So that's kind of cool. So each morning, it'll give you insights on how the temperature changes or your habits, like late night exercise or caffeine, impact your sleep and overall health. It's a non-wearable way to track your sleep and health metrics. That's right. Say goodbye to any wearables on your wrist while you sleep. Do you sleep with anything on your wrist?
No.
I do. I have a thing that has my address because I'll sometimes just wander off. Improve the way you sleep by using our link at 8sleep.com/trips for $200 off, plus free shipping on their high-tech Pod 3 cover. That's 8sleep.com/trips for a better, smarter sleep.
Here we go.
So you are a tall person.
Yes, thank you.
Were you a large child? I mean, because again, now thinking about a compact, and if there are two other McHale boys that are also on the same growth chart as you, I would imagine it was incredibly tight quarters.
Yes. So what we would do is put the seat down and we would lie down in the back and drive from Seattle to Chicago. And we had the big thing on the top to hold all the luggage and no seat belts, of course.
Yeah.
And that's how we would move across the country. We did that a lot, like every summer practically.
It was that to see grandparents?
To see all the Chicago family, which was my grandma Marie, who was born in 1899. I have 27 first cousins.
Wow.
Yeah, I got it. They're all over the place. And my aunt had 10. One of my aunts had 10. We're littered all over the Midwest from Lake Geneva down to Naperville.
Are you close? I mean, I can't imagine you're close with all 27, but it does seem like you were spending a lot of time with them.
Yeah, we know each other strangely pretty well, which is pretty great. And like when we have the family reunions, like 90 people show up, and that's still like half of them. Like when now it's all spread out, but it was strangely close and wonderful.
So Seattle to Chicago, first of all, how long's that drive?
40 hours.
So you stop, how many nights would you do it in? Or how many days would you do it in?
2 usually, or 2.5. They did one time. They went from Chicago to Boise without stopping.
Wow.
And that's just like tag teaming the driving and somebody sleeps or
Yeah. And I used to talk about, my mom fell asleep one time and crossed all the lanes and then woke up and barely saved us. And then my dad was like, "Do you want me to take over?" And she was like, "No, I'm very awake." And so we just kept going.
Do you remember being in a car that drifted over, or was that only okay?
Yeah. No, we went through wildfires in Montana, and we used to have a Volkswagen minibus, which broke down at the end of every block. And so that's when we moved over to the Dodge Aspen. But no, those were really good memory. Everyone in Seattle, if you had any money, you always went to Hawaii. And that was just like, that doesn't even exist. That is Westeros, basically. You're never going there. And
You never get in the Dodge Aspen there.
No, vacations were always breakneck pace. Driving and visiting and living with other relatives. And then I was taken to Hawaii with a friend. They had a place. And we got there and they were like, "All right, we're going to the beach." And then we sat on the beach and I was like, "What are we doing?" And they were like, "This is it."
Yeah.
And I was like, "You just sit here?" And they were like, "Yeah."
You could read a book, but of course that was no good for you.
No, then they just like, they turned it back. They're like, "You have it upside down."
So did you hate it? When the first time you realized this is the luxury of Hawaii, did you actually hate being on a beach with nothing to do?
No, I was just like, man, I wish my parents had more money. First time going to Hawaii, I think people have, like, it doesn't look like it's real. And you're like, this is like, people live here. No, it just didn't seem like, you guys, I'm assuming you've been there. I mean, but it looks unreal.
It's so distinctly Hawaii. Like when you see it, you're like, oh, this isn't like anywhere else. It's just like Hawaii. Yeah, it is beautiful.
I think the craziest thing about when you fly into Hawaii and you realize there's also, office buildings.
Yes.
You can't believe that anyone can focus enough living there to actually have a proper job. And I tip my cap to them.
Yes. A long story short, you guys grew up on the East Coast, so you guys all went down to Florida, right?
Yeah.
That was it, yeah. But we didn't do a Florida of luxury. The nice thing, though, was even a hotel with a pool felt like luxury.
Yeah.
Looking back now, I realize what it was, and it's a nice reminder that kids are just so happy with almost anything. A soda machine in a hallway is just the best thing you could ever imagine.
Anywhere that's not even home seems...
Yes.
Like in Florida, when you walk outside, it's warm. It's summer temperatures.
Yeah. Because we would go to the beach, like the New Hampshire beaches or the Massachusetts beaches, and it always felt cold. Like going in the ocean always felt freezing. And in Florida, you could get a hot day, and then just getting in the water was, it was like getting into a bath. It was the best.
Yeah. That same thing where I was like, how does anybody live? How does anybody get anything done here?
Yeah. Although when I've been to Hawaii, it's beautiful and there's these big waves and you're like, oh, I'm going to go out there. And people are like, oh, you can't go out there. Like, this is like Neckbreakers Beach. And you're like, what? And it's like, Hawaii also can get you.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to kill you at any moment.
Yeah.
We went to this beach that they were like, you have to stay on the beach and you can only swim in this little part and don't go in the field behind you because that's full of wild boars and they'll kill you. And I'm like, great, paradise, wonderful.
Right. That's not paradise. That is, you are surrounded. They have
Yes.
you.
That's
you are
lost.
surrounded by chaos.
Wait, so obviously you both grew up in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Why do people of Boston, like, I have brought it up on stage or to them where I'm like, going to New Hampshire, and they're like, sorry.
Yeah.
They hate it. They're like, as a real thing about it. They don't like each
Well,
other.
they love coming up there to buy their booze at the state liquor store because they don't have to pay taxes. We don't have any sales tax up there.
So I think there's a little shame. It's almost as though you're talking about their mistress and they have to, I'm New Hampshire. I don't care for that. But they do come to buy tax-free liquor. I think that in general, and I have a great amount of affection for the people of Boston, they have no problem looking down their nose at the states that are closest to them in proximity.
Yeah, because we also like naturally claim the Red Sox as like, that's our team. And they're like, yeah, they're in Massachusetts, pal. And it's like, yeah, but we don't have a team. So it's like for
Right.
all of New England, we're not Patriots fans, but New England can sort of stake claim to the Patriots. And I wonder if people from Boston and Massachusetts are like, they're not yours, they're ours. And you guys are just like glom-ons.
I was once at a charity event and I was talking to one of the Wahlbergs. I won't say which one. It wasn't Mark. And I was talking to one of the Wahlbergs. If it was Mark, I would have said it was Mark. I was talking to one of the Wahlbergs and they said, are
It was
you
Chip.
Wahlberg? One of the lesser, when I said to Chip Wahlberg, he said to me, are you from Boston? And I said, I'm from New Hampshire. And he said, so not Boston? That sort of encapsulates how Bostonians feel about New Hampshire people. Does that mean you've been going to do shows in New Hampshire when you tell Boston crowds? Have you done stand-up?
Yes, and I work them against each other. So I'll
That's
do
a
a show
good
in
call.
Boston and then bring up New Hampshire. And then I'll be in New Hampshire and bring up Boston. And they cancel each other out.
I mean, the best example of this is people from Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket think the other place is bad. So it just is
yeah.
the whitest feud.
Would you say that you two are the most famous brothers out of New Hampshire?
Most famous brothers out of New Hampshire. I can't think of another famous brother duo out of New Hampshire.
Right.
So I'll throw it out and say yes.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe some like colonial stuff.
Yeah, we're willing to be shown up.
Yeah.
I mean, the Wahlbergs clearly probably the most famous group of brothers out of Boston.
Well, the Afflecks have done quite well for themselves.
Ooh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Don't sleep on the Afflecks. I feel like Boston, I think that's where you sort of go back to the Revolutionary War, and I think there were probably a bunch of Boston brothers, Buston heads, I should say.
Yeah, I feel like New Hampshire and Vermont have sort of a better rivalry just because they are that sort of like weird mirror image flip version of one another. And to the rest of the world, they're probably just like, you guys are the same.
Right. Vermont, though, has, you think about maple syrup and, I don't know, like movies like St. Elmo's Fire or something, like, even though that didn't take place there, it's like this romantic, leaves were always changing. And like growing on the West Coast, you hear about New Hampshire and you're like, oh, right. Where is that? And then you're not sure, and you're not even sure where Vermont is, unless you're one of the kids that memorize states and they're where they are. But it was, and I'll stop talking.
You seem pretty derisive about kids who could memorize states. Were you the kind of guy that would bully the kids who could find all the states?
Not only would I bully them, I made sure they never came back to school.
Do you know capital of New Hampshire?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, cool.
Great. So I have another question. Joel,
Yes.
you were talking about lying down in the back of your car, driving out there, seat back
Yeah.
down, 3 boys lying in the back of the car. Now, we've established you and your older brother not readers. We've also know just based on timelines, there's no iPads, there's no phones to look at. What were
No.
your memories of what you were doing in the back of a car on a 40-hour drive?
There was a lot of staring out the window.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, Montana is the longest state. I was like, how many mountain ranges are here? And I don't think my parents were like, there was a time when we would just talk and really disgusting. I don't think we did that either. It wasn't like I had a book with me because I didn't know what I was doing. I went into kind of a fugue state where, like my eyes were like half masked, but I was awake, but I was resting kind of like a horse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we were so excited to get out. Like I was like, I'll pump the gas. And we looked forward to the gas stop.
Any roadside attractions? Were there any like things along the way? You're like, we got to go see this. Like they got the biggest pickle.
Never. Oh my God. Like Wall Drug started advertising 400 miles away from Wall Drug. And we were like, can we go to Wall Drug? They're like, tourist trap, no way. And at one point I was like, can we go to Mount Rushmore? Because that is, and they're like, nah, it's too out of the way. And it was, how fast can we get there? It was not check out this beautiful scenery. Some of it was. I mean, I-90, as you guys know, goes through Boston, longest highway in America. So that goes straight through Montana and then heads down and goes through Chicago. But it was never like, here's a ball of yarn the size of a battleship. No, there was none of that ever. So did you guys fly or drive to your vacations?
We drove a little, but I think started flying. Certainly Florida was a fly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember Piedmont Airlines. Like we were on Piedmont for a while. They had a drink, a fruit punch called Piedmont Punch. And that's all I remember about that airline. But I feel like they were one of the first low-cost carriers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Piedmont Punch, probably you were looking forward to that. You're like, we're going to get Piedmont Punch when we get on here.
Yeah.
I did enjoy flying. Our mom did a very nice job of and my wife is very good at this now, packing a lot of materials for us to go through over the course of a 3-4 hour flight. A lot of, those magic pen things where you...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That is what I remember from flights, how exciting that was.
Now do your kids use iPads?
We're pretty good. We're pretty snobby about not letting them use iPads.
Everyone else on the plane would love it if they'd give them an iPad.
They would love it.
Yes.
At some point, I want to say, I'm not doing this for them. I'm doing this for everybody else.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So when do they get the iPads?
I will take the train with my boys every now and then. And when it's just me and the boys, that's iPad time. But it's good because they know not even to ask when my wife is around. And the nice thing about that is it's, I don't know, we're planting these very important seeds of resentment where they don't like her and they think I'm the bee's knees. And I think that's important.
Before the kids even knew what it was, I was like, this is called Angry Birds. This is how you launch the Angry Bird to hit these things. And it falls down. Now go ahead.
Yeah. I'm going to go watch 2 episodes of Band of Brothers. Hey, we're going to take a quick break and hear from some of our sponsors.
Family Trips is supported by Zoc Doc. Josh, you know I like to pamper myself.
Yeah, you sure do.
I'll get a little extra leg room on a plane, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If you can supplement a menu with a little extra, I'm the kind of guy that'll do that.
You're what I like to call top shelf.
I'm a top shelf gentleman. And so if I'm going to do the top options with everything in life, why would I settle when finding a doctor? Enter Zoc Doc, the place where you can find and book tens of thousands of top-tier doctors, all with verified patient reviews.
Zoc Doc is a free app and website where you can search and compare highly rated in-network doctors near you and instantly book appointments with them online. When you're looking for a doctor, you really don't want a bad one because chances are you got something wrong with you and you need it looked at. So Zoc Doc helps you sort through them bad doctors and gets you one of those great doctors who's going to be able to help you out and get you back on the road to recovery. Typical wait time to see a doctor booked on Zoc Doc is between 24 and 72 hours. That's it. You can even score some same-day appointments.
I mean, in the old days, the best same-day appointment you were going to get was that doctor in the van. Remember the van doctor in our old neighborhood?
He was not a good doctor. I don't know that he actually was a medical doctor.
Well, he certainly had a van. Go to ZocDoc.com/trips and download the Zoc Doc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/trips, ZocDoc.com/trips. This episode is brought to you by U.S. Bank. I'm a foodie to the core. Whether it's in the kitchen, trying out a new recipe, or end-of-the-year lists, I get so excited, Pashi.
Yeah.
When the New York Times prints best restaurants in the city, make a list, try to spend the rest of the year hitting them all. And now, With the U.S. Bank Altitude Go Visa Signature Card, I can earn 4 times points when you go out dining or order takeout and restaurant delivery. Plus, earn 2 times points when you shop for or order your groceries. Think of all the rewards you'll earn every time you make your favorite meals or dine out.
The Altitude Go card also earns 2 times points at gas stations and EV charging stations, as well as on streaming services. It's going to be a lot of dining out for me, with mom and dad coming in town for the holidays. And it's going to be nice because the whole time I'm going to be acting like I'm just buying them dinner, I'm really going to be getting myself some points.
And are you excited to bring mom and dad out to restaurants with the industrial flashlight they now bring to read the menu?
Yeah. Plus, discover how you can earn 20,000 bonus points, a $200 value at usbank.com/altitudego when you apply. Live every day your way with the Altitude Go card. Learn more at usbank.com/altitudego. Limited time offer. The creditor and issuer of this card is U.S. Bank National Association, pursuant to a license from Visa USA Incorporated. Some restrictions may apply.
Here we go.
How long would you stay in Chicago for those summer trips?
8 days, and then we drive back.
That's it?
Oh, it was not
Oh,
long.
wow.
It was not. Once in a while, it'd be 10 days, but it was breakneck speeds.
And what's the itinerary? Like, what?
Oh, you go to Chicago for a few days, stay with my grandma for like 2, stay with our friends, the Kellys and Wilmette.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
We got friends in Wilmette.
Yeah, they went to New Trier High School, and they had the big fancy house, and we loved staying there. And then we'd shoot up to Door County, Wisconsin, and that would be like 3 or 4 days of. And I thought Door County, Wisconsin, I was like, this is the greatest place on the planet. And I don't know if you guys have been there, but it's so beautiful. And it's
What do you do? Like, what do you do? You're at someone's house, but are you going to a lake? Are you going to, they just got a great backyard, or?
We all stayed at the same kind of motel. It had a pool.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there was like a candy shop in Fish Creek. And it also had, in the candy shop, you could buy little cap guns. And so it was just like cap guns and candy. And then every night the adults would get together and have like a clam bake and drink. And it was just great old times. And I remember that's when Trivial Pursuit started.
Mm.
And so they were very much into that because it was always men against women. It was always the husbands against the wives. And the dudes would always try to trick their wives into like, name like the college that the most presidents went to. And they'd be like Harvard. And they're like William and Mary's. And they move on to the next one. And then the wives would be like, hey. And then they would be like, you. And then they go back. And so I thought that was pretty great.
And what would they go back and find out that it was Harvard?
Right.
Or?
They were like,
Yeah.
I just lied and we're winning. And I just thought that was so
a bunch
funny.
of bad dudes.
Yeah. But then there was fishing. There was like a real big boat culture and you could just hop in Lake Michigan. And at that point, it was it was August, so it was very refreshing. And I look back on that as like I felt like I was in the movie Flamingo Kid or something when I look at it now. And I was like, what a magical, cool time. And we would do it practically every summer. So we were constantly driving across the country.
How much dread set in when you got in the car to drive back to Seattle?
Boy, I'm trying to think, because I think there was also CYO camp in the future.
Mm.
So I always did look forward to camp. It wasn't nearly the same dread as that I had when, like mid-August, you start seeing all the back-to-school commercials, and I'd be like, enough of this! I was like, are you guys... I'm not getting anything back to school. I'm not going to think about it until I'm going to school. It didn't have that dread.
Yeah.
Did you have this? Because Josh and I, huge football fans, and I got so excited every year as a kid, so excited about the NFL season starting, and felt it was so deeply cruel that it dovetailed with the start of school. Like, it almost made it impossible to look forward to.
You don't think it was cutting? Like, see, I have to go to school, but it's leveling out because of NFL football.
I think now, with hindsight, yes, it was good to have both of those at the same time, but it mostly just felt like such a cruel poison pill to attach to football that it also meant you had to go back to school. Also, we're Steelers fans, and when we were going to school, the Steelers were also pretty terrible. I feel like if it was the beginning of, a great season, it might have helped, but it was pretty early.
But also, they weren't on TV. Like, they'd only be on TV a few times a year in New England. So,
yeah, it was bad.
It wasn't like it is now where, like, if they have a bad season, you can watch it all.
So, like, Terry Bradshaw that whole era was done, and obviously before Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even before, it was like before Cordell Stewart, too, which was a nice mini era.
It was like Bubby Brister, Mike Tomczak. Seth can do these
Mark
names.
Malone. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
pretty. David Woodley.
Did you guys actually go to games as a kid?
Not many. We go once a year with our parents, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I never went to a Seahawks game before. My friend took me in high school, and I was like, I cannot believe I'm here.
I think that even more than baseball was so awe-inducing to go to my first professional football game.
Yeah, no, the crowd alone. It's always weird now because because everyone's like, soccer's a better, like all the European, all that stuff. But the soccer crowd is just kind of a rolling. It's always kind of going, and then something good happens and it kind of goes up. But in football, if you're in the home team, you are silent while your team has the ball. So, and then when it's not, there's mayhem, and I love it so much.
Do you go back now for games?
Yeah, I went to the home opener where I took my 15-year-old. We flew out of Burbank on the Alaska flight at 7 a.m. and then came back on the 9 p.m. flight, and we lost. So that was the only disappointment. But, my son he can get really stressed out about the Seahawks winning and losing. But being in the crowd as it wasn't looking good, there was a camaraderie of like, well, and you could see everybody pissed and he was like, oh, I'm not alone. And then yesterday we went into overtime and won, and it's just more relief than it is like joy. It's like, oh, okay, we did it. Okay, all right. And so he knows it way better than me. The 15-year-old, the 18-year-old doesn't care about sports at all. But
Good for him.
he was like, it's a lot of wasted time and money. And now for Seattle, because Seattle had always been the city in the corner with the Mariners sucked, the Seahawks sucked, like the Sonics turned out really well, and then we sold them. And then we went to the Super Bowl with what's his name, with Hasselbeck, and then against your Steelers.
Yep.
Remember that?
We were there.
And then do you remember how the ref who made the bad call, wrote a letter? It was like, if I don't get this off my conscience, I will die unhappy. And I was like, even he wrote a letter. And so then when the Seahawks finally in 2014 pulled it off, the amount of joy that I had was unnatural.
Well, I am sorry that it happened at your expense, but we brought our parents to that game in Detroit against Seattle. And, it basically, as a fan, because the last time the Steelers won a Super Bowl was 1980, and I was not old enough to care. And I had just deeply cared for, over a quarter century. And being with my dad and my brother and my mom, who all cared deeply about it, it is one of the most, and again, it was sort of relief. It was just,
Oh, yeah. Our father cried. And it was like, it's a video that we have somewhere on an external hard drive. And Seth has said, you have that, right? And I'm like, I think I do. Yeah. He's like, I was like, do you need it for something? He's like, no, I just really want to know that we have it.
Right. You got to pull that out. So who's ever got it?
my dad sobbing into a terrible towel was just like the culmination of everything. Because I'm having this moment, Joel, and maybe you already knew at this point. So my oldest is 7, and they don't. Now, again, I'm not actively trying to make them Steelers fans. I was kind of hoping it would happen naturally, but they're at the age where I'm not really watching games on Sunday because it just would be such absentee parenting to disappear in the middle of an afternoon. So they're not even watching me watch them. But I'm trying to decide if it's a some positive or a some negative to their life to give them this burden of being a fan. Because, and I know we're timestamping when we recorded this, Steelers are 0-1. They're playing Monday night tonight. And I was saying to Josh before you got on, all I feel right now is dread. That if the Steelers are 0-2, it just feels like almost in a weird way like a lost year. Not just for the Steelers, but for me as well. And that is it's like a sickness.
Yeah, I don't watch, if the Seahawks lose, I don't watch any highlights.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no.
I won't turn on ESPN. I won't turn on the NFL Network. I won't watch Good Morning Football, which I love. It's too... I realized with he's going to get mad that I said it, but yesterday, friends were going to come over, and then as it was getting closer, and he's like, we don't need to have anybody. He basically was like, I don't want to have any friends over if this is loses. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll just have them wait until, and then we march down and score. But you're right. My entire week it's okay with the Mariners because the Mariners play so many games, and now we're pretty good. I know that it hasn't been great just of the last couple of weeks, but I'll be like, okay, we still got this many regular season games left, and it's going to be okay. But it, hasn't. We went to the playoffs last year for the first time in 20 years, thank God. But it is like, if you guys go 0-2, if we did this podcast tomorrow and you're 0-2, what's it going to be like?
It'll be awful because already people write articles about the percentage chance of teams that start 0-2 going to the playoffs. You immediately, the math is so bad. That same thing, won't watch highlights, won't pay attention. My Twitter feed, which is just, I follow so many people who write about football. X, right? Sorry, I know that was your idea. It's great. So I go on X and
better.
I'm scrolling, and I'm the person who chose to follow these accounts, and I see highlights of other games, and my reaction is, who the fuck cares about football? Enough. Because
I don't follow any football or sports things. No. And like my dad's always like, I read this article in the Post-Gazette, and he loves it, but I've never cared that much. I've cried when they've lost. I've cried when they've won.
So if they're getting good, if they're going to the playoffs, you're watching everything though, right?
Yeah. And like, tonight my fiance's, going to have the second half of the day off. We're going to have a night together. So I'm probably not going to watch the game tonight, but I will record it and wake up at 6 a.m. and watch it.
By the way, I think that reflects very badly on my dad and I, that Josh said, I don't care that much. I've cried if they've won and cried if they lost. But that, compared to my dad and I, that doesn't register as caring that much.
Because it doesn't ruin my week. It doesn't ruin my week or my off season.
It should.
But for not caring, you will wake up at 6 a.m. and watch the entire game?
Yeah. I mean, I like it. I really enjoy it. But I just can't rattle off like the whole roster, and I don't want to hear detailed analysis. I don't want to, like, after a loss, like, read about someone say, like, oh, why the defensive backfield needs a new, we got to think about next year's draft. Like, that's so boring to me.
Yeah.
Have you taken multiple trips with your son to Seahawks games?
We have gone to a lot of Seahawks games because I am a weasel. Like, I try to get tickets, and sometimes the Seahawks will be like, we hear you're coming to the game. And then I will shake my son and go, do you know how lucky you are? So I got to raise the 12th man flag. So I love doing all that stuff.
Now, do you feel like your son is well within his rights to say, do you know how lucky you are? If I didn't care about these games, you wouldn't be allowed to go. You get to do the thing you wanted to do anyway, but also be a good dad while he's doing it.
Ooh, yeah. No, I'm not going to tell him that. He will use that. Like, we were walking through Seattle because we had never done this, where we had flown 2 hours from LA to Seattle. I just took a cab to the Pike Place Market, and we're like talking to the fish throwing guys. And then people, because it's Seattle, I get recognized there 5% more than I do here. So Isaac, my son, was like, hey, Dad, in LA, you're like a D-level celebrity, but here you're a full C-. And
I like this kid.
I was like, thank you.
This kid's got some real Joel McHale in him.
Yeah,
Good burn.
Doesn't like, I love cars, and he could not. He'd be like, don't ever pick me up in any of these. Don't even. Like, he wears the same clothes to school practically every day. Same thing with my older. They don't care about any of that. So
what about the four of you? You're a core four, like my brother and I were, two boys. Do you guys travel a lot now?
Yeah, we go to Seattle a lot.
Great.
And because we have a place there, and a lot of the families there. Some of them are ailing as far as health, so we go up there a lot more. But this summer, we went to Ireland for the first time with all of them.
Oh, nice. We went to Ireland last summer. It was great.
Are you Irish?
No, we took our parents because Northwestern played a football game there last summer. And so we went for that. It was great.
In Dublin?
In Dublin. Northwestern played Nebraska. We were like 14-point underdogs. We won. It was so exciting. And then we lost the next 11 games of the season. We were 1-11. Yeah.
But you were at the one that you,
we were.
We were.
And I
cried. I will say I cried.
For a guy that doesn't care about sports, you cry a lot.
I'm an easy cry.
Did you both go to Northwestern? You both went to
We both
Northwestern.
went
Our
to
parents
Northwestern.
met at Northwestern, and we both went to Northwestern.
Joel, I want to jump in here and see if I can pull one of your credits out of thin air. So Josh and I did an episode of a show called The Getaway, which was a travel show, and we went to Amsterdam. I feel like you did an episode, and maybe it was Ireland.
It was Northern Ireland.
Northern
So
Ireland.
it was Belfast. So
Gotcha.
yes, technically I'd been to Northern Ireland. And as you know, if you tell a person from Ireland that
Yes.
they're the same, there's a reason. There's been a few years of problems.
The troubles, not the problems.
So my wife, she lived in Belfast for a year in the 80s, and that when it was, pretty rough. And then we went, and it's changed. It's so different than it was for her. She couldn't believe it. I'm saying, it was one of those, like, this complete, and city blocks completely different. But I had never been to Dublin. Sarah had, but the kids hadn't. And then we went to this place called Achill Island, which is where my family was from. And it was hilarious because I went there. My little brother was with us with his family, and he was so excited because, of course, anytime an American walks into any pub, they're like, I have ancestors, and the Irish are just so annoyed. And so we walk into these places, and they'd be like, "Oh, you guys here because you have family?" Like they know to even anticipate the. And then my little brother was like, "Yes, we are the McHales," and all the Irish people are like, "Yeah, there's no McHales. There's never been any McHales here."
That's a Scottish name. They're like, that's Scottish, actually.
Oh, they're like, "Oh, you're from County Mayo," and they're like, my brother's like, No, we are from here. And he would like pull out on his phone. He'd be like, here's the record. And they're like, oh, all right. Good to know. And that made me so happy.
Did your boys like it? Were they excited to go to Ireland, and did they enjoy it?
As excited as I was a kid to be like, if I just can get on an airplane and fly somewhere, that sounds great. They're like, like at one, my we're going to Ireland. My kids are like, how long? I'm like, what? Because they're like, they want to come back. They want to play with their friends. And they're like, okay, fine. And then once we were there, like there's sheep wandering the streets. And they thought that was pretty wild. And so once they get there, they're like, oh, all right, this is better. But what's the Wi-Fi connection? And why is it so bad? And so that's,
Have you ever taken your parents on one of these trips? Do they ever travel with you? Or did they ever travel with you?
A couple times. I mean, I brought my mom and dad I brought them to New York to see the original cast of Book of Mormon and with my mother-in-law. And then we went to Marea for dinner, which is like this great Italian restaurant. And then, of course, I gave a speech. I was like, this is a great night for you guys. And and so we've flown a few times. I took them to, D.C. for the White House Correspondents' Dinner because they would have never talked to me again if I hadn't. And so, a few different, but I've never gone like, we're going to Kuala Lumpur as a family. I've not done that. Have you?
We haven't traveled too far afield. We haven't done a lot of international stuff with them, but we lived in Amsterdam for a few years and worked for a theater out there. And so they'd come visit, and we went to Paris. We took a day trip to Bruges.
Wait, you were working at the same theater in Amsterdam?
Yeah. We worked for this theater called Boom Chicago, which was these American guys started this improv theater, and Josh and I overlapped for a year, which was really fun. And they love having a reason to come do stuff. I mean, they came to DC when I did the Correspondence Dinner as well. And again, I think it was not a thing where they were waiting for the invite. It was more like, just tell us where to be. Right. You should have told your parents they can come, but they had to drive their Dodge Aspen. I think that would have been.
That would have Wait, did you pay for the day trip to Paris, or did they pay?
I'm pretty sure they paid for that.
Yeah, because we weren't sort of in the money in any way, shape, or form when we were working.
We were making $80 a show, something like that. Like just making guilders.
We did fly them to Ireland, didn't we? Do that?
Yeah, I bought the tickets to the game. They bought the hotels in Ireland, and you paid for the flights. That was a great Christmas gift because we don't need things. We don't need stuff. We don't want to buy each other things that we don't want. That hit perfectly in a way. This is something we can all do together, and that's what we like.
Did you get him business class or nicer?
Seth got the flights. He got his business class.
I did. I think that and again, I don't want to make my mom sound like a huge snob, but I think that had I told her I bought you flights to Ireland and it had been coach tickets, she might have. And I think I want to say that my mom would fly coach. My mom would not raise a son who had his own television show and then accept that he would fly her coach.
Right. No,
You know what I mean? She feels like she's an angel investor in this operation, and she deserves a certain treatment.
Yes, and whenever you preface something with like, "Now, I don't want my mom to come off as a snob," but here, no, I'm right there. No, that's mine are exactly the same.
Yeah,
and yeah.
By the way, and I think they deserve it, and I especially should note it's almost better that they're not saying, "Look, we flew you business class when you were a kid, and now we expect it back." It's more like, "Hey, we weren't of means when you were a kid, but we still gave you experiences. We drove you 40. It was not fun. I had to drive. I fell asleep. I drove across 3 lanes of traffic. And now I want a little luxury."
Agreed. Same exact boat. But my question is, when you went to Paris, what sporting event that Josh did not care about did he burst out crying at or in Bruges?
Yeah, no sporting events. There was a heat wave when we were there, and the Pope was there for an international youth conference, and it was brutally hot and it was packed. And we knew a couple who had lived in New Hampshire, and she was Dutch, and I don't know what her husband was. He might have been Dutch too, but they had an apartment there. And all I really remember from Paris is going to their apartment because it had air conditioning, and they had a Jeep Wrangler and some kind of muscle car, and we drove around the streets of Paris in cool American cars. And that's my only memory of Paris.
It was August. It was so hot. It was so crowded that I will say I left, and my takeaway was Paris sucks. And it wasn't until years later that I went with my wife that I realized
that's how Rome is as well, when it's just because it's packed with tourists in the summer.
And the Pope's always there.
Pope's just hanging out.
Yeah.
He smells bad because he's got all those robes on and that hat.
Yeah. And that Pope mobile's tiny. There's not even a seat you can put down to lie down in the
No. Ugh, it's like a locker room in there. It's like a sock. But maybe it's changed now, but all the Italians were on vacation because they're like, it's too fucking hot. And then I remember coming in and be like, there's just a layer of soot on your clothes from the day out and seeing beautiful Rome. But yeah, it's fine. Yeah. And then I was like, nah.
I do just want to swing back real quick on CYO camp. Is that a sleepaway camp? Or is
yes.
that? Yeah. Where did you excel? What did you enjoy most about your summer camp experiences?
Oh, I loved CYO camp. Camp Don Bosco out in Carnation, Washington. I think it's still there, but now Carnation is a suburb of Seattle. So it was exotic when you went, and now it's just, there's McMansions all over the place now, I understand. But it was so fun. I just remember thinking I was looking forward to it. And there was that awkward first day. We were getting to know everybody. And then you get care packages from your parents. And they never signed us up for it. But horse camp was more expensive. And then one year I finally convinced them to let me do horse camp, which is just like riding a horse for half an hour. Then they're like, yeah, that's an extra $200. And it was like bows and arrows. At one point they had like a rifle range. They got rid of all that. But it was, I remember like Tears for Fears was popular. I don't know how great of a camp it was, but to me it was like, oh, this is the greatest place of all time. And I mean, it was organized, but it was just kind of screwing around all day. Like, let's go make candles. And then we go do that. And then I became a counselor there, or a counselor in training, because I loved it so much.
Did your boys go to camp?
One of them just started going to camp. The 18-year-old's like, nah.
But the 15-year-old loves it. Did he enjoy it?
He did. He went away for like 3 weeks, and they take away the phones.
That's great. I would think that 15 is almost too late to go away for 3 weeks.
Yeah, he was counselor in training.
Okay, gotcha.
And yeah.
Because I think that is the intimidating thing about certainly people on the East Coast who go to camps, is they start so young, and if you wait 3 years into it, it's like you're going to a new school. Everybody knows each other. They're super tight.
On the East Coast, it's tradition of you go away for a month or
it's
2
crazy.
months.
Or 2 months. And the kids want to go away for 2 months. The kids I know, the parents who tell me it's so awful that my kids are gone for a month, the worst part they say is the kids get back and they're like, why did you pull me out? Some kids are there for 2 months, and I want to be there for 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah, no, that is not a West Coast tradition. Like CYO camp was 7 days. Like that was it. That was what you were offered. Like that's the option.
Yeah, I have a buddy. I don't know if this is actually right, but he was like, "Hey, I'd love to like do like a camp. I want to go to like man camp where it's like, now I'm an adult and I miss going to camp." And I feel like I Googled man camp and it was a picture of like 3 guys in their 60s and 70s standing on a lake, all completely naked. I was like, well, this isn't where we want to go.
Maybe a non-starter.
But I would love to go to like the CYO sort of like, yeah, we're going to make candles for an hour and a half, and then we're going to go out on these sunfish on the lake and whatever. But
I hope you sent the website to your friend and were like, I'm in.
yeah, book it.
Your instincts are right on.
Yeah, 2 months. Don't just do a month because you're going to be mad that you left.
Yeah, I feel like man camp is like, I don't know, every hotel in Florida or, just where you take golf carts and they're gigantic. I feel like that's, I don't know, maybe not.
They'd realize man camp was bad branding, but I think there are a lot of active man camps in America right now. When you take a big trip to Ireland, are you the planner or is your wife Sarah the one who puts it together?
She is mostly the planner. I'm usually the driver because I find it a personal challenge to drive on the other side of the road.
How did you do overall?
I do way better than I was expecting.
Great.
I was looking for like a YouTube video or like a practice thing. Only one time did I just pull straight into the wrong way. But they were always like, keep the center line on,
Do your wife and kids sort of root for you as the dad behind the wheel, or do they are they derisive in your efforts? Because that is the thing that's already happening with me, and certainly with my wife and the boys. The girl's too young to have an opinion yet, but nobody thinks dad can do anything right.
Oh, that is the case.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you get behind the wheel in a foreign country, and are they already sort of rolling their eyes and sighing?
Okay, in that particular case, I am pretty good.
Okay.
They were like, Dad loves this thing.
Got it. Because you're a car guy, so they have faith in you.
So I like that. Like in Italy, it took almost a year, but a year later, I got 2 speeding tickets. And there was a side of me that was like, yep, that's right. It's just like a real Italian. And, but most things, they think that I'm half brain dead in most of the things I'm doing. My 18-year-old constantly is like, he'll be like, Dad, what is wrong with you? And he's like, what? Why are you so, he'll be like, are you dumb? I mean, you're dumb. And then I'd be like, that means you're half dumb. And we're joking, but like, yeah, I was in a movie. The New York Times actually had a nice write-up of my performance. Thank you. And Sarah, my wife, was like, oh, this is an actual good review. And I was like, what why did you have to say actual? What the?
I bet it kills you that we're in the midst of a strike and you can't tell us what movie it is. The one you were good at.
You can't break the SAG rules by promoting past work.
Okay, it's not called Man Camp.
All right.
All we have to do, Josh, is Google Joel McHale good, and it'll probably be the one that comes up.
It'll be like shocker, like shockingly.
My wife and boys call me Dur Daddy. And I heard my son saying to my wife, I was downstairs, they didn't know I had come home, and he said, well, it's not my fault, it's Dur Daddy. And my wife said, you can't blame everything on Dur Daddy. And then I said, I can hear you. And my wife said, we know. So it turned out they did know I was home, and they just had not chosen to talk about me in a different way.
What is Dur Daddy?
Like Dur.
Wow.
Dur Daddy.
There was a time when my older one, I don't know, he must have been like 14. Every time that I'd go, Eddie, he'd go, oh no. Just like, and he'd be like, whatever it is, you're going to mess it up. And they don't come to me for homework, not at all. They would never dream. It's not even an option for me to try to help them out.
This is different, but I've reached this point because just saying, a dad saying, Eddie, my kids all the time are like, Daddy, and I've just reached this point where I'm like, just start talking. I can always hear you. Whatever it is, don't make me do this this double step of what? Just start talking. They're like, Daddy? I'm like, what? Just go, start talking.
Right. And then they'd be like,
Who do you think invented Daddy. It sounds like an Alexi creation.
You know what? I think it might be by my own hand. I think I did it once as like to be like self-deprecating.
Wait, you made up Dudder Daddy?
I think I said it once like, oh, sorry, Daddy was being dudder. And then like I like watched all their eyes light up and I realized that, I'd given arsonists the gift of fire.
Now, he says it every day. Like if we sit down to dinner together, we say grace and he will go, God is good and Dad is not. And I'm like, what? I swear, I'll look around the house. I'll be like, look at all this stuff. Look at this. Look at this. All this electricity running through the walls and the ceilings. I pay for this all.
I like just the fundamental misunderstanding as to what grace is supposed to do. It's like it's not.
It is just another opportunity to take a shot.
Joel, we are now going to do what we do with all our guests on the show, and Josh is going to ask you some questions.
All right, some quick hitters here. You can only pick one. Is your ideal vacation relax?
Oh, sorry.
Your ideal vacation relaxing, adventurous, or educational?
I feel like man camp is all those things.
Yeah, that's why. This is one of your other sponsors that you brought, Man Camp.
Even though I would say relaxing, it always becomes adventurous. Yes. So, yes, I would say I would go for adventurous first.
All right. What is your favorite means of transportation? Train, plane, automobile, on foot, bike, boat?
Aspen.
Oh, well, I would say, I don't know. I got this electric bike that I like a lot.
All right.
Yeah, it's called a Super 73. It goes real fast.
So when you take it out, it's a mix. Sometimes you just turn it on and you're biking on your own, right?
Yes. When I go pick up food for the family, I always take the electric bike.
Great.
Gotcha. Could you pedal it?
You could. This one is designed to look like a little motorcycle from the 1970s, and it's extremely heavy. I'm in a fantasy world where I'm like, this isn't like a motorcycle, and then I'm going 35 miles an hour. And it's got pedals, but you can't really. Yeah, I also like cars a lot. So I know that I was only. So yeah, I just bought this 1966 Oldsmobile Tornado, which is pretty stupid and wonderful. And it's got this gigantic engine and I love everything about it.
Was that a car you had your eye on for a while, or did the opportunity present itself to buy that kind of car and you thought, oh, that could work for me?
I've thought about it for about 10 years.
Wow.
And then I finally bought one. And then my wife, as soon as she saw it, she goes, what are you going to do with it? And I was like, wrong question. And then,
Drive it?
Yeah. And then my 15-year-old calls it the broken car. And I'm like, yeah, okay, great, wonderful.
All right. If you could take a vacation with any family other than your own family, what family would you like to take a family vacation with?
The Menendez brothers? The Menendez brothers? Yeah, those guys.
Okay. That'd be a fun one.
I would love to hear what they're up to.
And then also it would be a trip where everybody would call you the good guy.
Just to be like, that Joel. My kids would be like, wait, they killed that? Oh, you're great, comparatively.
If you had to be stranded on a desert island with one member of your family, who would it be?
I got an uncle who builds boats.
Look at you. That is the best answer we've ever had.
I would get him. He's an asshole, but
it wouldn't have to be there for long. Yeah.
Kevin McHale, probably. He might be related. I don't know.
You're from Mercer Island, would you say?
Mercer Island, yes.
Would you recommend Mercer Island as a vacation destination?
No. There's no hotels. There's nowhere to stay. It's all residential. There's like 2 public beaches. So it would be terrible. Seattle, though, I mean, there's places around there you can go.
Okay.
But Mercer Island is not a vacation place.
Gotcha. And Seth?
Have you been to the Grand Canyon?
Yes.
And was it worth it?
Okay, I have not been to the regular part of the Grand Canyon. This is going to be Bear Grylls and I got dropped into the very tiny beginning part of it in the Slot Canyon area. And I was like, this is the most beautiful, coolest thing I've ever seen.
Did you get dropped in and then it's like, we got to get out of here, but you got dropped in where it was super easy to get out?
They were like, we got to get out of here. But this cameraman and sound guy and the lady with the snacks and the dude with the first aid dude,
I got asked years ago to do the Bear Grylls show. I had no interest.
What?
Mostly because I was like, eh. But you know me and the outside, Posh. We're not
Yeah.
meant to be together.
I'm
But how
good.
much time did you spend with Bear Grylls to shoot an episode? Was it days?
1 day.
Oh,
You
wow.
can do a 1 day. Like some of them are days, but I happened to be in. They were like, "Can you come to Arizona for 1 day?" And it started really early and it ended pretty late. But again, it was. You got to do it, man. Even if it doesn't sound like too great, it's so great.
All right. This is the
Yeah.
most resounding Team Grand Canyon we've had yet. Although you did do it with Bear Grylls, which I feel like is maybe the perfect way to do it.
Yeah,
Well, you had a chance to do something with Bear Grylls, and you didn't do that either.
I have no regrets.
I have a Bear Grylls knife. I have a Bear Grylls shirt.
Wow.
I've never met
Josh
Bear.
is
Bear Grylls never asked me to do anything.
But every
can-
time you watch his show, you cry when it's over.
I do. I cried multiple times.
But you're not interested in those shows.
I'm
at
not
all.
that
You're
into them, but I do cry hard when it's over.
I will say we took the kids to Zion National Park in Utah. We drove there from LA. And when we drove in, I was like, holy fuck, this has been here the whole time. It's the most gorgeous place I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And then you're like, oh yeah, there's another national park 40 minutes from here. And then you're like, dear God, this is beautiful. I was like, why didn't we come here as kids? It's just stunning. It's amazing.
Well, you had gas stations to go to and stuff like that. Real quick, though, now you had that reaction in the national park. Do your wife and kids have the same reaction? Was everybody in the family in agreement that this was incredible?
They were a little bit littler that back then, and we went with a family that they're close friends with. So none of them were like, "Dad, look at the stunning peaks." But they were happy with their friends and
Great.
climbing and swimming and really, it was a good time. I can't recommend Zion enough.
All right.
Great.
There you go.
That's
There
a
we
very
go.
nice way to wrap
Wait,
things
what's the
up.
why the Grand Canyon question? Just because
Because Seth doesn't think it's worth it, and neither of us has properly been, and I am very eager to, and Seth, I think, is clear.
I have my
from-
doubts. I have my
Yeah,
doubts.
he has his
would
doubts.
you guys do like a river rafting trip? But does that sound appealing
I
to
would.
you?
Yeah, I would. We did one once years and years and years ago on the Kennebec River in Maine, but I would definitely would.
I feel like I'm sort of a disaster magnet, and that when I do things like that, it's the one they'll be talking about 30 years later about, then of course there was never an incident on that river until the storm. And I'll be the guy who was on it for the
But
storm.
I'm the one that got dropped out of a zip line. I'm the one that breaks my leg. I'm the one that,
Well, maybe your traumas are the reason I don't want to do shit.
So when you saw the movie The Impossible with Ewan McGregor, you're like, yep, that would be me.
I'd be that dude. Just a little bit
that-
less charming and a lot less handsome.
And just one tsunami away from that. So your vacation is like going to a nice, just like parking at a hotel in front of a beach?
Yeah, but I don't really like beaches either. I think it's maybe, I don't know. I like going to a cool city where there's a lot of things to do, but none of them are sort of nature based.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we've been to Copenhagen twice, and I was like, this place is amazing.
See, that's right up my alley. I've been to Copenhagen, and that's a perfect example because I like
Yeah.
a place where you can bike. I don't hate being outside. I just like being outside when you're moving from point A to point B.
Okay.
I like functional. I like the outdoors as a functional place to be in between indoor locations.
So if someone said, hey, Bear Grylls wants you to come to the Amazon, and you're going to float down the Amazon with Bear Grylls,
I've already hung up. I didn't even get to Amazon.
you're like, it sounds like a lot of bug spray and, sweaty.
Joel, it was a delight to spend this time with you.
Thank you so much, Joel.
Thanks,
so
Joel.
nice to chat.
All right, love you, buddy.
That was so much fun. All right, love you guys.
All right,
Thanks for
bye,
having me. Bye.
In the digestion, Joel and both his bros would stare out the windows in the driver's seat and head and knees to pray that mom don't fall asleep and make the drive to Chicago. There's a wall drug, but you can go. Mount Rushmore, Dad, but Dad says no. It's straight to Chicago. The first stop is to see Granny up in Fish Creek. Buy some